Hi, I'm Leif Johnson, and I reviewed Wasteland 2, the director's cut for IGN. This is actually the Xbox One version you're looking at. It's also available for the PS4 and the PC, and it marks a little bit of an improvement over last year's release for the PC, which I also reviewed. If you want a better idea of what the game is actually like, I suggest you go look at that review since I cover a lot of what makes the game great. It has, for instance, an excellent story writing, which you mainly see in the little printout over here, which is actually blank. And you also hear it through a lot of voiceover text. There's actually a lot more voiceover text this time around because developer InXile went in and recorded a lot more, which gives it a little bit more immersion. And it actually works, especially for it's a console release, since you don't have to read so much. And there's also meaningful choices. Matter of fact, one of the things that I'm in right now is High Pool. It's an early part of the game right now, and I'm kind of showing it off because this way you don't have any spoilers and stuff. And it also has meaningful party design. And as you can see here, I've pretty much created my party entirely the way I want them to be. Customized skills, and you also have certain new additions here that I'll talk about in a second for the actual console release. The only person I did not make for myself is Angela Death here, who is actually kind of a crutch character that you can pick up in the very first chapter of the game. Some of the problem was before that there were some unclear objectives, and that kind of remains here. There's a little bit of improvement, but not much in that regard. And there's a heavy focus on certain skills, like assault rifles used to be ridiculously useful, and they still largely are. You'll notice I actually have two characters with assault rifles. There's Angela, and there's one of my other guys. It's Paco here. But I'm going to jump in here, and it's one of the big things you'll notice here is that, it's got gamepad control. It takes like 10 minutes to get used to, and I actually found that considering how focused this game is on PC play, it actually works really well. Unfortunately, this is already unlocked, but if it was not unlocked, I could use lock picking, and then I would just be, all I'm doing right now is holding the left trigger. The right trigger is similarly good. You look over here, you have precision strikes. That's actually kind of a new thing because if there was actually targeting an enemy, it would tell me to look at the torso, the arm, and stuff similar to what you find in Fallout later. And like right now, I have somebody that needs. You can call in here and you can say. There you go. And see, I've leveled up, and all I did was hit the right button on the D-pad. So as you can see, it's very good gamepad controls, and very easy to figure out. And but one of the things that makes this game great, too, is you now have quirks and perks as you go through here. And as you can see when I made it, the quirks make it a little bit more interesting. So, like Angela Death here, since she's the actual NPC in the game, has no quirks. But let's go to Cho here, who's my melee guy, and he has Unlucky. And this is what the thing is that he'll occasionally shoot out a lightning bolt that hits either friendly guys or to hit foes. And you never know which one it's going to hit first. So I actually find that it actually hits enemies more often, which is really nice in combat. But sometimes it does hit your own guys, so it's a big choice of what to use, and it's a big gamble. Pardon me. And there's another one. Let's see who else we got here. You have Ascetic, and here's another quirk right here. 5 skill points and 1 attribute point as the game start, but the drawback is she can't ever equip trinkets. You can also find perks later on. This is another new addition, but I don't have any perks points, so I can't here. Minus 25% of friendly fire when using shotguns, and she is my shotgun person. Got 1 base armor, and minus 25% damage from explosive, and that's actually a pretty big one. So it actually adds a little bit of variety to the game. One of the things I said before is the combat kind of slogs down into this little monotonous trudge. But here's a case.
Can anybody hear us?
That's the problem here, is that I can't actually hear what they're saying. But that's an example of what some of the new voice text. But let's go ahead and jump into combat here so we can make these guys be a little quiet. And this is the problem, is, you can kind of jump into combat here. So Start off with a shotgun. Boom. But only now can I place it in. Now the problem is I'm one big problem with the director's cut is it's designed for consoles, but the developers seem to have forgotten that. If you look over here on the right, you have the printout here, which kind of tells you what's happening in the game, and you also see the health bars at the top. This is really small on a console screen. I am lucky to be standing about 2 feet from my screen right now, but I'm normally on a recliner that's about 5 feet away from it, and there is no way I could read it at that distance, and that's a big problem. Some of this stuff is actually important, and it really shows up when you're trying to look at specific details in your inventory. Like, look at the assault rifles here. That's really difficult to read, and like I said earlier, I'm really impressed by how well the gamepad transition works, but they seem to have forgotten about key things like this. And there's other things. There's, you know, my party's all clumped here, but when you actually get into the business of, you know, trying to get everybody to follow everybody else, there's sometimes pathfinding issues in which they'll end up walking over mines that could easily avoid it, so you got to make everybody wait while you send one guy come out. That was also a problem with the original release, but it's especially annoying here with the gamepad controls. But that's really the only real gripe that I have with the gamepad issues. Now, one of the things that was also true of the old version is that it was kind of an ugly game. It was kind of drab. It looked, you know, it was made in the spirit of older games, but the problem was it kind of looked like an old game too. They've actually improved the graphics here, and it looks, you know, with the Unity 5 engine. But the thing was, I have to admit, I didn't really notice the difference until I went out and until I compared the two. And so let's go over here and get a melee attack here, and you'll see why I like melee. Smack. And is that an actual good guy? That might actually be. Anyway, but so yes, I'm just ran into these guys, and I'm too busy blabbing right now to pay attention, so sorry, guy. And but yes, but the thing was I couldn't really tell that the graphics were really any different. But when you do look at it closely, you can see that almost everything has changed. They've updated the models. They've added new textures. High Pool here actually looks kind of greenish in the original game, but here it's got a lot more deserty stuff, and there's a lot more texture to the sand. And but the best way I could put it is that it looks different. It is better, but I kind of had to look at the old one to remind myself that it was. And the models are still kind of drab, but as you can see, there's definitely improvement if you're familiar with the old one. And but that's a lot of the changes here, and it's a better game, definitely, and that's why it deserves a bump up in score. And a lot of the bugs are fixed. Like, there was one of the first bugs that I saw in the original PC review happened right here in High Pool, but it doesn't. I didn't see it right now, and it's very nice. So far, I haven't seen a single bug at all, and I have played further than this as well. So I'm happy to see that, since that was really a bummer for the first one. But you also have the small text. You also have the fact that the console, that the combat does still, drudge down into that kind of tediousness after several hours, even though there are definite improvements with the perks and quirks. But and there remain some unclear objectives. But with all that, it definitely deserves a bump up to 8.5. It's one of the great RPGs that we have right now, and it's really fun. And I'll show you a little bit more combat. I'm actually on easy right now, and I'm barely thinking this out. But the thing is another thing about the combat is a lot of the weapons are prone to jamming and everything else, and that remains true here. It seems like it's a little bit better, but sometimes when you play, there's just constant jamming and there's constant misses, and but luckily that seems a little bit better now. But again, I'm giving this an 8.5, and I enjoy it, but it still has a little bit of trouble, but it's still a great RPG, and you should play it. So, but for more on Wasteland 2 Director's Cut, stick with IGN.